Perek Chaf Daled, Mishnah base. This Mishnah sets out the permissible ways in how to feed an animal on Shabbos. Says the Mishnah, Matirin pekiei omer lifnei ha-behema. Lifnei behema. We may untie bundles of straw before an animal. So imagine you've got a bundle of straw and it's tied at the top and at the bottom. So you can just untie the top and the bottom and release the straw. That is mutter to do on Shabbos. What you should not do is to scatter it. You're not allowed to take the straw and to scatter it further because that's considered a tirchi yaseira, that's considered excessive toil. You're allowed to do what is necessary to feed the animal, which means to make it into eichel. Right now, if it's tied up, it's just a tightly packed bundle of straw, then the animal can't eat it. So you're allowed to untie the top two ends of these bundles, and therefore the straw naturally becomes sort of released, and therefore the animal can eat it. But you mustn't take it and scatter it all over the place. The Bartanura explains as follows: Pekiye Omer, Kashin shel shibolim she'ogdon. You've got bundles of straw which have been packed together. Matirin oson, you can release them. The kozman shein kashurin lavuchlanenu, because whilst they're tied together, they're not edible. The animal can't eat them. Umatirin oson shavinu uchlo. So therefore, you're allowed to release them to make them into eichel, into food for the animal. Avol pispus, i.e., lefozron, to scatter them. Kaderech shiruginin lefaza asovim lifnei behema, like we would normally scatter grass in front of the animal, that the air can get to it, and it makes it nicer for the animal to eat it. Also, that is not allowed in these bundles. Because once you've rendered it into food by untying the top ends, the bottom and the top, scattering it is just an additional ta'anug, an additional benefit. And we don't allow this excessive extra toil because it's not really necessary for a tanug ba'alma, for the additional enjoyment of the animal is eating. Okay, so matirin pekei omer lifnei ha-behema, you can untie the bundles of straw. Continues the Mishnah, mafaspasim es ha-kippin. You may scatter kippin. What is kippin? It says the Bartanura, anofim lachim shel eretz. They're the moist branches of a cedar tree. That we are allowed to scatter. Says the Bartanura, mafazrim v'shoitchim eson lifnei ha-behema. You can scatter that and lay them out in front of the animal. Shetereach reichon, that the air can get to it. Belav pispus lav uchla. Because when it comes to these cedar branches, if you didn't scatter them, the animal wouldn't eat it. Therefore, to render it into eichel, you need to scatter it. So therefore, that's mutter. That's not considered a tirchi yaseira, but that's the essential activity needed in order to let the animal eat it. Avoloyes hazirin. Zirin is exactly the same as pekiye omer. It's these bundles of straw, but instead of having just a tie sort of bound together at the bottom and at the top, they also happen to be bound together in the middle. So they're threefold, like sort of a triple folded, a triple bound bundle of straw. So in other words, to summarize the first half of the Mishnah, when it comes to bundles of straw, you're allowed to release or untie the pekiye omer, which is the bundles which are tied at the top and at the bottom, or zirin, which are tied in the top, the bottom, and the middle, 3 times. You can untie that, but you cannot scatter those. But when it comes to kippin, which are these moist cedar branches, that you can do pispus, which means to scatter them, because otherwise the animal wouldn't eat them. Continues the Mishnah. Ein meraskin lo yes hashachas v'lo yes hecheruvin lifnei behema. You're not allowed to shred or to chop up, to finely chop up shachas. Shachas is animal fodder. It's a type of straw which hasn't properly grown yet, so you can, and that is fed to the animal. That you're not allowed to sort of shred or to finely chop. And similarly, you can't shred cheruvin, which is the carob fruit. Lifnei ha-behema. Why not? So again, the Bartanura explains, Ein machatchin esev shel tevua v'hi aspasta mishum detirchu l'shalei tzorichu, because these things can be eaten by the animals as they are. The shachas and the cheruvin, the carobs and this fodder can be eaten as they are. So to cut them up, to make it easier for the animal to eat, is not necessary, and therefore it's a tirchi yaseira. Rabbi Yehuda mati becheruvin ledaka. Rabbi Yehuda, however, permits crushing, shredding the carobs for a daka, for a small animal. Sorry, I missed the line. So the Tanakama holds difnei behema bein daka bein gasa. You can't cut up shachas or cheruvin for an animal, whether the animal is a duck or a gasa, or a small animal like a sheep or a goat, or a gasa like a larger animal, a heavier animal like a cow. It doesn't make a difference. You're not allowed to shred or cut up the shachas and the cheruvin. Rabbi Yehuda Matzi becheruvin ledaka. He permits cutting up carobs for a daka, for a light animal such as a sheep or a goat. The Bartanur explains sheshino dakos, because the teeth of a daka, of a light animal, a sheep or a goat, are much smaller and lighter and thinner. The koshin, and therefore it's very hard for it to eat if you don't cut it up. Ve'ein halacha Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha, says the Bartanur, is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Rather, the halacha is like the Tanakama, i.e., you're not allowed to shred either shachas, this fodder, or cheruvin, or carobs for an animal, because they can be eaten as they are, and any further shredding would be considered a tircha yisera. That is the end of Mishnah base.